Hi folks, Leigh Diffey, along with my booth mates and teammates, IMSA experts on NBC, Calvin Fish and Brian Till. We had a great weekend covering Sebring. It's always a special race. We could talk all day, kind of like what we did on Saturday. But let's move to LMP2. Terrific win by reigning P2 champ Tom Dillman and the Inter-Europol squad. We congratulate them. But to me, Cal, this kind of seemed like the day that who wants to win this? Because there were so many different leaders on the day, whether it be Stephen Thomas and the TDS team, whether it be the CrowdStrike with APR and George Kurtz and that squad. There were so many different leaders throughout the day, but it was like, who wants to win this thing? Because they went to the front, they dropped back, there were crashes, there were penalties. I mean, it was kind of, that one was a little more difficult to predict.
It was. I think when you look all four class victories here this weekend, the finishing driver did the job. We talked about NASA. We'll get into GTD cars in a moment. But I think for Dillman, he was superb. He didn't crack. He didn't make a mistake. Bourdais had pace when he was right behind him at the end there, running in P2. And I think for Jakobsen, he made that little error. I mean, during the 12 hours at Sebring multi-class racing, you're encountering this GTD traffic all of the time. And he made the error down into 17 and ran over the top of the AWA number 13 Corvette, got the penalty. So I think that victory was for them to win. They had the track position. They had a fast car. They had a really quick driver behind the wheel. But that's that one little moment. One little miscue cost them the chance, and Dillman was there to pick up the pieces, and he didn't make a mistake. He didn't crack, and that's what was necessary now. In this championship, the level is so high. We talked about Team Penske, perfect execution in all four of the classes. You've got to do the same job.
BT, what was your takeaway about P2?
Well, I think that's the beauty of P2 is the drama that is always going to unfold just because of the structure of the class with a professional driver and a bronze driver. Love qualifying, always love P2 qualifying because it's the bronze driver who does the qualifying. It's their opportunity to go out and shine. But then you mix in that formula throughout 12 hours at a place like Sebring, pro driver, maybe two pro drivers, maybe two AM drivers, but certainly a bronze driver. And they're going to be mixed up at times on the racetrack as to who's in the car. And it's always going to be exciting to the end. And like Calvin said, hats off to Tom Dillman. He had a world-class sports car driver, world-class race car driver behind him, and Sebastian Bourdais, who put the pressure on, and he never flinched.
I think, too, we need to mention Dillman's co-drivers in Bijoy Garg and Jeremy Clark. Jeremy Clark was on debut and wins the Sebring 12 hours. Like, yeah, what's the big fuss all about? He gets it done on debut. So understandably, the prototype classes get the lion's share of the attention. But I have to say, fellas, that we really did enjoy the GTD, both pro and regular GTD competition, because it was fierce all the way to the end. We'll talk GTD Pro for now because AO Racing won with Lauren Heinrich, the reigning champion in that class. It was phenomenal between the Porsches, the Paul Miller BMWs, the Pratt Miller Corvettes. You just name it anywhere, and any lap of that race. I mean, it looked like the last lap, even within the first hour.
It really did, and surprised to see the Corvette now still having a few reliability issues, which cost them dearly in this one. You felt that the Paul Miller Racing BMWs had the strengthening numbers, both the 48 and the one were there all day long. But again, I get down to that finishing driver getting the job done. Heinrich was sensational. I think he broke the track record there at the end of the day, and he made the difference. I mean, he just got the bit between his teeth, no pun intended, with Rexy, the car that he's driving, of course, and just superb. We talked about that trio of drivers, just top shelf. They get their first win. They're together, their first win for an endurance race for Lauren Heinrich, which he said he won the championship last year. Now he wants to win the big one. So they're off and running. The championship winners from last year have had a really solid start to the year once again.
It was really kind of ebb and flow all day long, right? Between the BMW, the Porsche, the Vet. The BMW looked solid both daytime and nighttime. And I didn't think the Porsche really had the legs to get it done with when we were watching during the daytime hours. But as we talk about Sebring all the time, the checkered flag falls in the nighttime. You got to have a good car at the end. They not only had a good car, but as Calvin pointed to, they also had a very good driver. And I think much like Felipe Nasr, Lauren Heinrich is very, very comfortable aboard that Porsche.
In GTD, I think the moment that we will all remember coming away and sort of coming down to the end was the contact between the Vasser Sullivan Lexus, Jack Hawksworth, and the Mercedes, the Winwood Mercedes at the end there, which ultimately decided the victory. But Winwood Racing, yet again, to me, I always default to thinking of them as the Michelin Pilot Challenge team, and they stepped up in their first ever IMSA race, won the Rolex 24. Well, here we are, several years down the road, and they just continue to show unbelievable organization and execution, and the drivers that they put together, and that Winwood Racing Mercedes squad is incredible.
They really are. Again, defending class champions last year. They won here last year at the Sebring 12 Hour. They follow up with another win here. It's put in the hands of Philip Ellis. What a closer he is, just totally at the top of his game. And it was a hard move that he put on Jack there to kind of move him aside, but it was subtle enough that he didn't get the penalty call. And he then drove away from Jack Hawksworth at the end of this race to put together another solid day for that whole group. But it takes the perfect day. That Winwood Racing group, I reflect back to the Rolex race where we saw the car going through the infield to try and find the garage, went down a few laps and came back to almost win that race in a solid top 5. They followed that up with a win here this weekend. So they're right in the points battle once again. So they're going to be tough to beat, following up on last year where they had such a dominant year in GTD. They are definitely the team to beat once again for 2025.
Brian, definitely a memorable moment and passage in the race, the AF Corsa Ferrari with Alessandro Pierguidi. That was pretty crazy stuff. Lila Wadu ended up, pulling off to the side of the track. The car was, I guess, sustained damage in that, but that was a pretty exciting passage of the 12 Hour.
It was, and watching Pierguidi in qualifying, he was just magical. The 296 was fast all weekend long across multiple teams, but Pierguidi is always exciting. But man, talk about needing to have your luck change. They had the brake problem early on, a lot of issues with that car that set them back and eventually put them out. But that pass for the lead, I'll just mention this real quick. A lot of people watched the 2024 race and watched Jack Hawksworth at the end, kind of in some people's mind, do the Corvette a little bit dirty to take the win. Sometimes I get a speeding ticket. I don't feel like I deserved it now, but I always accept it because I know I deserved it at some other point in time. So it comes back to kind of haunt you sometimes, turnabout is fair play or whatever you want to call it. I'm sure there were some Hawksworth fans that felt like he was done dirty too, but in the end, it's the last couple of laps at Sebring, and it's a hard-fought victory every year.
It's very gratifying to see where the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship is at the moment, with the variety of manufacturers and drivers from all over the world giving us so much enjoyment and entertainment like they did at the Mobil 1 12 Hours of Sebring. A short break. Next up, it couldn't be more dramatic. From a 24 to a 12 hour to a 100-minute race on the famed streets of Long Beach. You'll see that on USA and on Peacock, April 12th from 5 p.m. Eastern. Enjoy the short break. We'll be back racing before you know it. Hi folks, Leigh Diffey from NBC Sports here. If you truly enjoyed what you just watched, you can get more news, interviews, and highlights by subscribing to the Motorsports on NBC YouTube page. You can get it all, so go for it.